everyone. On behalf of the British Council and the Arts and Culture Resources India, I welcome you to our interactive Festival Connections webinar. I'm Rianne D'Souza, and I'm currently leading on the Festivals program at the British Council. Given the overwhelming response to our previous session on sponsorship and festivals, we're back with an elaborate extension in the form of Pitch Right. It's a collaborative workshop on sponsorship and fundraising for cultural festivals. Global pandemic aside, raising funds and brand associations is a challenging exercise for festivals at large, as we are all very well aware of. In an attempt to bridge this gap, the session will break down the process that goes into creating a solid partnership and funding pitch. In this exercise today, our expert panel will help you approach an imagined festival and present a pitch to a jury. They will then examine these efforts and guide you towards improving your pitches further. Before I hand over the session to Dipti Rao, here's a quick shout out to our Festival Connections, our monthly online program of expertise and knowledge sharing between India and the UK, which is part of our 3-year Festivals for the Future program. British Council Arts has been a catalyst to strengthen cultural and social development in the creative sector. We firmly believe that culture connects us and creativity and collaboration binds us together. Now, in this post-COVID era, more than ever. With that, I now call upon Dipti. She's the Director of Projects of ArtX Company. Over to you, Dipti.
Thanks so much, Rianne, and it's a pleasure to be here and to see this session coming through. The teams at ArtX Company, Arts and Culture Resources India, and British Council are very happy to present this much asked for session on sponsorship and funding. So welcome everyone. This is of course part of the Festival Connection series that we've been running jointly since before the pandemic, since about August 2019. And we've managed to pull off one session nearly every month, which is quite exciting for us. After the year that we've had and everything that you all are dealing with in the cultural sector, I know that we're all trying to find the right path to move forward. And so this topic becomes extremely critical. Our 3 facilitators today will cover several aspects of the sponsorship and funding process for the festival sector, from a funder's perspective, from the nuts and bolts perspective. And because of the response that we've had, we haven't really been able to invite everyone who applied to attend this session. As you all know, workshops do need to be a bit smaller. So the people who are here, you all are, you represent a mix of young festival managers who are actively working with festivals. Some of you have fundraising experience, and many of you we know can take whatever you learn from this session further back to your teams. Today we are on a very tight schedule. This is primarily because we want to pack a lot into this session. So we'll jump straight into some housekeeping guidelines before I introduce our facilitators. We'll go through the 3 presentations first. You're welcome to post your questions in the chat box. For now, video and audio for workshop participants has been disabled just to ensure that at least the first part where you're receiving information flows smoothly. My team will collect all of these questions, and so will I. And we'll find some time after the presentations to cycle through some key questions. A note for the facilitators that if you would like to answer any of the questions via text in the chat box, you're very welcome to do that as well. But that's not primary, just for all of the participants to know that. Once the presentations are done, we'll jump to the exercise where workshop participants will be given a short case study. You'll all move into breakout rooms in smaller groups where you'll prepare a pitch based on the case study, and you'll present this to our jury, which will be our 3 facilitators and 1 more surprise guest. Immediately after the group's presentations, each group will get feedback from the jury. Each presentation has an allocated time for about 5 minutes, no more than that. This session is likely to go on until about 6:30 p.m. India time. So I hope everyone has their calendars blocked for this amount of time. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first facilitator, Illy. Illy Jaffar is joining us today from the UK. He is Managing Director of Kinetic and has extensive experience negotiating commercial and cultural partnerships. He specifically advises arts organizations on sponsorships and partnerships, and so is wonderfully placed to open this workshop with the first segment, which is the search. How and where to look for the right sponsors. Illy, I'm going to invite you to turn on your video and audio and take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. I haven't been to India for a long time, but I love the place. I'm originally from there, my parents anyway. So we haven't got much time, so I'm going to fly through this very quickly. I'm going to start by just giving you a bit of an overview in terms of my brand experience. I was 12 years at Pernod Ricard, doing their international partnerships across entertainment and culture. And specifically, two of the proudest ones I'm particularly proud of are the Royal Opera House and Perrier Jouet and the Arctic Gallery and Absolute Vodka. They were two long-term strategic partnerships that I helped facilitate. And I've got a lot of other brand experience that grows across the board. So that's a quick overview of me and what I've done. What I've tried to do for today's session is set out a little bit of a roadmap. It's an agenda for the presentation, but also it sets out some kind of key stakeholder areas that should be thought about and addressed. So I apologize in advance if you guys are doing some of this, all of this, and I'm trying to come at it from both sides of the relationship. So from being a sponsor to trying to seek sponsorship on funding. So I like to think of sponsorship, it's a dark art, it's an art and a science. But I think if you really delve deep and get into the heart of the core areas, you will achieve success. So market context, I think this is critical because we don't operate in a vacuum. And as I think the whole world is aware, the pandemic has had a massive impact in an already difficult ballpark. So more now than ever, we have to be appreciative of that. And I believe in India that the art is not sponsored or funded by the government. So you have to be very creative and very strong in finding out where this funding and sponsorship comes from. But I think it's worth thinking about the pandemic. Yes, it has an immediate impact, but it will have a longer term impact. Now that's twofold. That is in terms of availability of budgets. There's also the kind of the well-being and mental health aspect of what culture provides to communities, bringing communities together, which I think is a real strength that can be addressed to to flip the argument. So that causes lots of shifting priorities. That's part of the parcel of sponsorship. Brands change their direction, people change within brands, and you're constantly fighting to kind of like keep relevant and keep talking to the right people. So all these things are really important in terms of just understanding the environment that we're working in. And I guess the other thing that sometimes is not really thought about is the consumer trends. What are consumers really, what's turning them on? Where are they going for information? What are they consuming? All those sort of things are really important to keep ahead of or on top of and really understanding. And, brand budgets are constantly being cut, ring-fenced, changing. So having a long-term strategy is really important. So that's just the market context in terms of, the challenge that everybody faces at the moment. So know your audience. I think this for me is really critical as a festival curator, owner, director. I think this is where if you can really get your head around this in a really granular fashion, I mean, really deep, this is your currency and brands want this. So, how can you immerse their brand in your audience in a good way? Is your media list strong? What your influence is like? Yeah. and it's important that you understand this, but also it's not just those individuals that you have in your database. What is their subsequent reach as well? So once you start digging down into that, you can start looking at what they consume, their attitudes, values, all that kind of stuff, which is all data rich. And then, then that can be overlaid into, a potential partner's brand strategy or corporate strategy. But the more you can understand your audience, the more you can prove, demonstrate, kind of the numbers behind it. And it doesn't have to be a large audience. This could be, it's quality over quantity sometimes. This is what brands are looking for, and the more insights you can provide it into your audience, the more powerful and valuable your property becomes as a whole. So the value exchange, I think this is a shift that we're seeing more and more across the world. I've got a quote from the Harvard Business Review. Consumers expect brands to live in the same world they live in, speak the same language about the same issues they care about, be humorous when needed, or strike an emotional chord. I think that's really, really important. And I think you've seen a shift to this as people talk about CSR, Black Lives Matter, diversity is a big thing over here in the UK. Excuse me. These are the sort of things that brands are going to want to associate with because it helps them look good. It's a pretty black and white relationship. So, and that value exchange is really important because whereas, we kind of look at funding and sponsorship as a functional aspect, whether it's in kind or financial. I think from, brand perspective, they're looking to demonstrate they're associating with other people that represent their values as brands. So, how can you place yourself and your festival as a facilitator or a conduit to them delivering their values to another audience? So what's your strategy? Now, this might seem obvious and you might be doing this already, but I've seen lots of, over the years, lots of last minute things that are, can we have some funding? Can we have some product? When's the event? Oh, it's next week. It's just not gonna work, and it doesn't. It's annoying, and it's just not going to put you guys and your brand in a good view. And it's about having a strategy to take a long view. I'd be more open to talking to somebody about a 3-year partnership than a last minute support bit. And research. Look, brands are constantly changing direction. If you're reading about stuff in the press about a new direction, they've probably allocated their budget already. So it's trying to be one step ahead of the game constantly. So do your research. Think about it and put your brand hat on in terms of what would they be looking for? How can you align? I think that's really important because, you get people sort of going, can we have, we'd love to talk to you about sponsorship. And it's just not relevant to the brand or the corporate direction. So, and it saves you time if you can really focus on a smaller group rather than a scattergun approach. And, don't undersell your own brand, know your brand value. So by knowing your audience, as I said earlier, then you can equate a brand value to that and really kind of synergize the two. Really important to understand the planning cycles because, brands operate on 12-month planning cycles. Try and get into the head of when they're going to be doing their brand planning, start those conversations when they're starting to look at next year's strategy. That's easy to get. That's a few phone calls and emails to somebody in the office to say, when, can you tell me what your planning cycle is? So you have some key dates that you can actually start placeholding meaningful conversations, and be targeted and personal about these people. Find out who they are. I mean, we can't network as we used to do, but LinkedIn is a great thing for that, and people are very open to starting conversations that they wouldn't ordinarily have had in previously. So be targeted, don't be scattergun, and think about your metrics, because I'd be going, great, if I'm spending X, what am I going to get back on it? And it's really about proof. So it's not just, we'll just get you these people and so many people in a room and we'll email out to our database. It's got to be a lot more granular than that and a lot more detailed. So start thinking about, if we get this, how we're going to measure it, and that's like pre, and post event, all that kind of stuff. So have that thought out. I'm sure you're doing a lot of this already, but it's worthwhile having a formal strategy planned out. And again, tailoring your offer. I mean, this is really critical as well because, every brand is different, every corporate is different. So it's really thinking about and getting your head in their heads. I think that's the best way to look at it, and kind of going, right, what is going to really tick their box? What's going to excite them? So it's not, this is not a generic request for sponsorship that you're just emailing out to lots of different people. And I think the more sophisticated and bigger brands are now using screening software, so you should be aware of that. That will have their metrics already set up. So it's rather like the ATS system that's used in HR. And make it specific to the brand. So each mail, each presentation you send out, it'd be better if you can actually set up the meeting, obviously, but you've got to try and get people excited in the first place. Make it specific to the brand and the person. What problem are you trying to help them solve? What can you help them? What are you going to bring to the table that adds value to what they're trying to address? If you can get in, if you know and you've seen they're struggling with, because he's reading conversations on Twitter or Instagram, and you have insights into conversations that are going on that are negative perhaps, or that are not too positive, or they're missing an opportunity, then that's where the value add will really come in. And if you can prove that your audience and your festival can help them address that, then you're going to fall on a sympathetic ear. And be creative. I think we are a creative bunch, I would suggest. But it's more about kind of like thinking about scale. Think where you might be able to dial up a partner in another market that's doing something simple, and then you can then team together. So you could be somebody in the UK, somebody in India, and go, right, we're doing these 2 festivals. That then suddenly gives a lot more scale to a brand to go, oh, this is quite interesting. So those can be, they can be they're strategic, but they're incredibly powerful for smaller festivals. And look outside the norm. I mean, you can name the brands that everybody's approaching in the first instance. They get thousands of requests every day, every month, every year, whatever. So try and think outside the box a little bit. It's constantly changing. It's not always the brands that are established that have the budgets. We're now in a massive phase due to the pandemic that people, brands are seeking the funding. There's startups. That's where it's round 2 seeding stage. They're going to have more budget than some of the traditional brands sometimes. And is there, when I'm talking about being creative, is there a charitable angle that you can team up? You can team with a charity or an NGO or something like that, which gives a halo effect to your overall offer. And then it might, that then looks attractive to brands to go, well, they're doing some good stuff. We get an enhanced, our brand looks better because we're associated with that charity or that endeavor. So it's really kind of thinking outside the box and being creative in terms of where that funding, those brands are. So that's it. I've flown through that very quickly. I hope that's been useful. Yeah, that's me done.
Super. Thanks so much, Illy. I think it's particularly interesting to see how you brought out that knowing your audience is critical, because then that's when you can align your brand and your audience, and especially when it comes to unconventional funding sources and how that can come about. So thanks for that, Illy.
Thank you.
We will jump to our next facilitator. I'm going to invite Jai to turn on his video and audio. Jai Shah is the Vice President and Head of Cultural Outreach at the Mahindra Group. He helms several cultural projects that many of you will be familiar with, including the Meta Awards, Mahindra Blues Festival, Mahindra Kabira Festival, amongst several others. Jai is going to be presenting the view that Mahindra themselves take when they are approached with a pitch. So Jai, over to you now.
Thank you. What a pleasure to be here within the realms of the art community. It's a bit of a change for me since I wear the corporate hat. Although I work a lot in the culture sector through my festivals, it's always a pleasure to be part of a bunch of a creative group like yours. I was going through the list, and you guys already are doing such wonderful projects and festivals, and it's really an honor. Thank you, British Council, Dipti, Rashmi, for inviting me here. Let me try and share my screen so that you can see my presentation. I hope that's visible. Dipti, can you just confirm?
Yeah, it's visible. Thanks.
Okay. So as Dipti said, I am part of the Mahindra group, and the perspective that I bring to the table is that of a prospective corporate sponsor. So I'll hopefully try and give you some insights on what do corporates like us look for in either participating in art-related projects or sponsoring them, or a little bit of a different take that we have taken on such ideas. And as I was listening to Illy, I was gladdened that a lot of what he said, I will kind of validate with how we look at things. Um, Let me just move forward. Um, so the corporates and the arts, I think if you make a list of all probable sponsors currently, the corporate sector, although it has the funds to give, may be kind of an unlikely bedfellow for the arts. I mean, you would probably first think of an arts funding organization or an NGO that supports the arts, or an organization that collects funds from donors and then channelizes, like the IFA channelizes it through arts programs. But the corporate sector, according to me, has not yet been at the forefront of options for arts managers. And there could be a variety of reasons, and hopefully in the coming years, we will be able to bridge that, because guys, that's where the money is. The corporate sector has enough and more money to spend. They are usually looking for interesting ways in which they can bolster the brands and their own brand. And if one can make a strategic pitch to them, the chances are that one will get the funding that one needs. However, whatever few corporates are in this art space, they are looking at participating in art projects as a plain sponsorship play, something that they can slap their brand onto, whether it is a concert or a festival or an arts venue, so that their brand gets visual exposure. I'm not too sure if they are looking at it in a very strategic way as yet. Some corporates also have, because of the new company law, not new, it's been around for a while, but the requirement to give 2% of their profit after tax to charitable causes necessitates them to get their funds channeled to different things, and then art becomes a part of their CSR program. But again, like in my company, things like the environment or health or disaster relief take precedence over the arts, even in that small pool of CSR funds. And hence, the approach that kind of we have taken, and as I said, my heart lies with the art community. My paycheck comes from the corporate world, and I'm trying hard in my last decade or so to kind of reap the benefits of that, the access to funds that I have for the arts community. And I've tried to instill a rigor in the way in which we look at art projects, so that they are for Mahindra, so that they are generous in giving the money, and also get a sustained kind of benefit from it over a period of time, and it's not a knee-jerk one time, two-time deal. Okay. So how do we approach Mahindra's cultural outreach programs? As I said, we don't do sponsorships. We create our own festivals. We have our own IPR. And the journey of selecting or coming up with a festival actually really starts in a business strategy meeting, where we are debating ways in which we can come closer to markets that we perhaps are finding difficulty in addressing. So I, as the head of cultural outreach, sit in on a variety of business strategy meetings that happen on a regular basis in the organization. I'm I'm usually a silent kind of listener in the corner, because my role is to kind of listen, absorb, and figure out those gaps that exist in the business, which are not being filled by traditional means. I mean, there may be a certain group of people, a certain group of a market that is not able to appreciate our brand proposition. And we've already tried the traditional marketing methods, traditional advertising methods, and still are finding a bit of a resistance of acceptance. And that's when I perk up and say, oh, perhaps we can address this using the arts, because we firmly believe that arts is one very powerful way in which we can emotionally connect to our markets. It's not a tactical play. It's not just showing them an advertisement and telling them buy X product. It is more of building a relationship with them and our brand. And we feel that the arts provides a very nice structure in which that emotive relationship can be built. Now, so once we've kind of looked at the different needs and gaps, what we try to do is choose the art form. And this is the kind of the process we follow. Once we've identified the gap, whether it is geographical or the market demographics, or whether there is an emotional need, is it a financial need, is it a anthropological question? We examine all of that and then determine if arts is the best way. If arts is something that we want to explore, we make a short list of art areas that can help us achieve that goal. And more often than not, it is something that really is intrinsic to the culture of that particular group of market that we are trying to address, that is not getting the kind of support it normally would get. And those are the areas that we are really interested in, because if you get in and pick up the underdog, as I have mentioned here, then the chances of really affecting a dramatic change in the way that art form is perceived, and the progress that you can make through your contributions and your participation becomes so much more rewarding for the arts community as well as for us, because then at the end of the day, we have a story to tell. I would like to take the case of a Mahindra Blues Festival as an example, so that you know exactly the way in which we approach the Blues Festival. One would wonder why the blues and why Mahindra and why Mumbai. And it is not, as I said, just a sponsorship. It has a very intrinsic reason why we got into creating this festival. And so it initially started about a decade or more ago, actually 12 years ago, when we were discussing our presence in the US market. Our tractor business, as some of you may know, is we are the tractor leaders in the world. And we could not kind of ignore the US as a market. So we set up shop in the US. And in the earlier years, we were finding it very difficult to kind of sell to the American farmer. The American farmer, amongst other things, is very, very nationalistic, wants to buy American products, and was wondering, I suppose, why would they, purchase a heavy piece of equipment from a company that they can't even pronounce the name of, and a company that is part of a country that is so far away. If some of you know the American mindset, they're not very aware of things around their world, to put it mildly. So if they knew about India, and if it was thankfully not about snake charming and elephants, it was perhaps about IT, that they knew that India was famous for. But India, selling tractors was kind of a big question for them. And we realized that it is not about just changing their idea about India and Mahindra, but really about creating a relationship with them, an emotional connect with them that will help them view us as a company that is invested in their culture as much as anything else. And so I did a few recce's in the Mississippi Delta where the market is to understand, what is really that would make sense for this market. I explored many different art forms like country music, line dancing, jazz, of course, even some sports related activities like rodeo and bullfighting, which is popular in that region or used to be popular. And of course the blues, and we said, okay, the blues sounds really exciting. On the world stage, the blues as an art form was kind of waning in its popularity. Blues originated in the Mississippi Delta. If you all know, the slaves of yore were the ones who started kind of yodeling to their families on other plantations where they were separated by force, and the yodeling started becoming more and more poetic, and then they added music to it, and the blues were born. And so it's very intrinsic to that region, and we thought if we give blues a little bit of a fillip by participating in it, perhaps you'll be able to be viewed in a different way by that community. And then the question was, where do we do a festival? And of course, initially we wanted to explore being right there, either in Nashville, Tennessee, or some other cities, Jacksonville, Mississippi. But then we again, tried to think of what real value it would be for another blues festival to happen in a place that is concentrated with blues bars every street corner. There would be some kind of a gala happening every other month with blues as its backbone. We just thought we would be like, showing a lamp to the sun in that respect. And Anand Mahindra at that time was examining these issues with us, and he said, well, do it in Bombay. And it kind of didn't make sense to me at the beginning as to how, if we were to address the community in the US by doing a festival in Bombay, how would that all work? And he said, and he argued that, listen, if we set a goal for the festival to be the biggest festival outside the US, imagine the story and the narrative that you will be able to take back to your farmers in the US by telling them that, hey, we are so interested and invested in your culture that we are taking your lovely art form and making it popular in a world away, and really, giving it all our heart and soul. And that made sense, and we started it. This year we finished the 10th year of the festival, and what it has achieved for us in the past 10 years in that market is phenomenal. Now, I know it is impossible and unfair for me to say that our participation in the Blues Festival is what has made us a success story in the US. Of course not. I mean, a lot of work in the product planning and addressing the on-ground realities of the market over there, of course, has gone in as well. But the team, and we also realized that a large a chunk of the perception change that happened in the minds of the farmers towards the Mahindra brand has been affected by the festival. We get some of our customers and our dealers over to the festival every year. Until 2 years ago, when DVDs were a way of distributing music, every tractor sold in the US would have a DVD of the latest festival that happened in the US. We would. Am I out of time, Dipti?
Yes, we're
Okay.
nearly out of time.
Okay, so I'm almost done. So that's where the Blues Festival story is. And just a last word on challenges. As I said, I cannot take full credit for it, but how wonderful it would be if I was able to do a proper impact analysis on the effect of the Blues Festival on the Mahindra brand, and actually give my management some quantifiable measurements on how the brand affected us. And I don't have any ways and means to do that at present. If you wise folk figure out a way to do impact analysis of the arts, I'm all ears. And of course, the struggle to kind of Anand Mahindra himself, as the chairman of the company, is really into the arts and values the arts, and therefore I have that backing. But there are others who are not all that and are quite a little skeptical. So a struggle to keep on kind of massaging their mindsets on the benefits of participating in the arts is another challenge. Thank you all.
Thanks so much, Jay. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's particularly interesting when you said, one of the things that you mentioned in an early slide is to determine whether the arts is the right way to move forward with the intervention or the objective that you want to achieve.
Yes.
And that also means for those who are asking for funding, it gives us a sense of what our competition is in many ways, right? It's not just other arts projects, but it's the wider fundraising network that we're going to be effectively competing with. So I think that's very interesting. But it's also lovely to hear that Mahindra feels that the Blues Festival in turn was able to create that brand awareness, if you will.
Yeah.
In the UK. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Dipti. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop the screen share there. And so our third facilitator is Anshulika Dubey. Anshulika is co-founder and COO at wishberry.in. Her background in analytics is what led her to take on the space of crowdfunding in India. Wishberry, I believe, is the first homegrown platform that opened up for the Indian market. And since 2012, Wishberry has helped over 600 creative projects, has raised 17 crore rupees from over 1 lakh people. You just can't beat that kind of data. Anshulika will be breaking down the components of a proposal for us here today. Anshulika, would you like to turn on your video and audio? Hi.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Hi. Thank you, first of all, Artex, to having organized this very, very useful workshop. I'm so glad that people are taking. There are people who are specifically wanting to learn more about how to pitch to various organizations, brands, etc. So I'm going to also just dive right in the interest of time. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Wait, yeah. Can you guys see?
It's just loading.
Okay.
White screen as of now.
Okay, now.
Not yet. Do you want to try advancing in case?
Okay, 1 second. Let me just maybe do it again.
Sure.
Now?
Yes, we can see it. If you want to move to a full screen, yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
So yeah, hi guys. I am really just going to cover a very general points in terms of what is a good pitch, and hopefully you can apply these across board in terms of whether it is a written pitch or it is a oral pitch. You're actually pitching in front of someone in an interview or something like that, or it is and it hopefully can be used for towards all kinds of audiences that you're pitching to. It could be brands, it could be foundations, it could be corporates, and it could even be when you're crowdfunding to just public in general. So so I've taken a general lens on it, although I would like you to research more and deep dive more into all specific types of pitching, because that would be more detailed. All right, so so there are really two very key elements to a good pitch. One is, what is your story, and what is the story that you're telling? And if you are pitching in front of the right audience, is your story going to be relevant to this funding organization or a group of people? So just taking whenever you are going ahead and writing your pitch, it's best to sort of take a step back before just jumping into writing so many things, putting up a PPT, or even like when you are preparing for a in one-on-one meeting pitch. that you try and map if there is relevance to the audience, your story's relevance is there to the audience. So let's deep dive into the left part, which is what will be your story. There are three essential things that you need to answer, and it has to be as clear, as succinct, when you are sort of talking about your story. One is you have to start with the problem and the solution that you are offering. So let's say if you want to hold a film festival for a for the LGBT community, you have to start with the problem of representation, the lack of representation, and then get into why a film festival for specifically the LGBT audience would be important to spread awareness, give exposure to the community, as well as let them express themselves. And storytelling is probably the best way to do that. So one is the problem and solution. The second is why and why you, which means why do you want to solve this problem? How does it motivate you personally? And or if you're pitching as an organization, it's always good to sort of use some kind of personal events that have even sort of led to your organization getting into this thing. Maybe the story of the founder who started the organization, why you joined an organization like that. So what is it that motivates you about this entire problem to solve? And then also talking about why are you the best person to solve it? What are your capabilities? And then you proceed with the execution plan. This is essentially the hierarchy with which you should sort of write or talk about when you're pitching. These are just some specific points I want to get into when you are detailing your story. So as we talked about the what is the problem and solution. I know the whole concept of giving a one-line description is very overused, but I found it actually very useful to force myself to write down my problem and my solution in one line. And it may feel as if you're not able to explain well, but if you force yourself, you may just surprise yourself with the articulation, and that takes away so much, that saves so much time when you are sort of sitting in front of people. And also something, if you can also say something very emphatic and powerful, you suddenly get a person's attention. So I would stress the need of having a statement which is not more than a one-line description. Numbers, statistics, analogies, even if they're qualitative, examples always help in your pitch. And if you can talk about having a quantifiable goal by the end of it. So for example, I'm going to take the same example of a LGBTQ film festival. Let's say you want to say that by the end of the festival, we would want to screen 100 films, and we would like to sort of have an audience of over 1,000 people in year one, and in year two we would want to scale it up to another 1,500. So that helps the person see you as someone who's come very prepared and understands that the scale of impact is something that is also very important to you. Then when you're talking about why and why you, this is where you, as I just touched upon, you have to personalize this part as much as you can, and really, really be vulnerable, honestly, here to talk about what really affects you about this problem. And then you go into why your organization or you are capable of solving it. What have you done before? What is the kind of team that you guys have, or the experts that you guys have on board, to show that yes, you are very capable of achieving and delivering what you have to do. And then talking about the execution, which is exactly how the program will look like. What kind of deadlines are you looking at? And towards the end, what is the end goal, a quantifiable end goal? So that is the details of your story. Now, let's move on to the second part of the storytelling, which is Are you relevant to the funding organization? To find out whether you're going to be a good match, I would want you to ask 5 questions when you are thinking about, just listing down who all you want to pitch to. You want to see if this funder, whether it's a corporate foundation, do they follow this space? Have they done or funded something like this before? Or even if they have not, is there a brand fit? And while assessing a brand fit, the best way is to basically think if the target audience that you are going to touch through your program, is that the same target audience that the foundation or the brand also is looking at? And if that is the case, then there is definitely going to be a brand fit. Even within foundations, while they are not brands or corporates, they themselves have decided to follow certain, areas that they want to give grants in. It could be health, it could be something else. So that is their focus area. So you have to look at if what you are proposing helps them also reach out to the same target audience that you will also reach out to. Then obviously, does your solution actually help their goal? You could be reaching out to the same target audience, but is it really helping? Is your solution the right fit for this funder? And the scale of impact is something that a funding organization would definitely be interested in, because ultimately they are, they are reaching out to, they're funding, so they don't want to, just do something with 5 people or 10 people. But if you are giving them exposure, if it's a corporate, to a large number of people, if you are helping solve the touching lives and improving lives of hundreds or 200 or 500 of people, then it is something that would attract them towards you. So numbers are, the scale of impact is basically important. So you can always take a step back before writing down who are the people I want to pitch to. Just have this kind of, a template of these questions, and then think about who fits in this particular template. This also will save a lot of your time, as well as, the time of the person you're going to fund to, pitch to. So yeah, that's pretty much where my presentation ends. Hope this helps.
Thanks so much, Anshulika. I really appreciate it. It seems quite simple, but it's really not.
No, it's not.
Really not.
Yeah.
But I think also the reason why it seems so simple is because you managed to take out all of the jargon. You made it a who, what, when, where, why kind of situation, which everyone understands, and those are almost the go-to. But then also highlighted key things that are important within each of those W questions. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. And also thank you to Illy and Jai for your own perspectives on how to approach this entire presentation. So for the rest of for the participants, we're just going to dive right into the case. We don't have a lot of time. You'll all see a case study pasted as a PDF, a link to a PDF in the chat shortly. This is for a festival that has already taken place in 2015. This is a hypothetical situation based on fact. It is a contemporary dance festival called Ignite, which you will use as a base for all of your pitches. Each of you is going to be working in one of 4 groups, and you will have had the chance to give us your preference on which kind of funder you would like to pitch to. Unfortunately, there are a limited number of spots, so I think we managed to accommodate 16 out of 22 people's preferences, but everyone wasn't possible, so we've tried to do the best that we can. All of the work that you're doing in developing the pitch is going to be done in breakout rooms, which you will be moved to shortly. So all of you are going to be pitching the same festival, but to different funders, and you're all asking for the same amount, which is 15 lakh Indian rupees. We'll post, we'll make sure that, the link is in the chat right now. So go ahead and open it up. If you have any trouble accessing the file, just let us know in the chat and we'll be happy to look at it. We have 10 minutes now until about 5 o'clock for you to ask clarifying questions about the case study. Once you've read the case study, um, you have 30 minutes to prepare a pitch, and so that you don't spend time looking for a presentation template, we've created very basic slides that you can use that are modeled on what our facilitators have already presented about. During the pitch, you will have 5 minutes to present your pitch. If you go over time, please remember that it means the group might not have enough time to present. So please be kind to your fellow workshop attendees. The team will play 2 buzzer sounds. When you have 2 minutes left will be the first buzzer sound, and the second will be when you're at time. So I hope you're looking through the case study as I'm speaking. I'm also going to give you a quick overview on the types of funders that you're going to be presenting to. Just a couple of points on each. So with corporate sponsors or for corporate sponsorship, you could be speaking to brand managers who disburse marketing funds, or you could be speaking to someone from the CSR wing. It depends on the organization. What value you present to them from your keep that in mind. For those who are pitching to arts foundations, there are foundations and organizations that offer funding through specific grant programs, like the British Council, for example. These fit specific programmatic objectives. And there are other arts foundations like JSW, for example, who offer funding support without a programmatic agenda as well. For those of you who are pitching to government institutions, in many ways, funding from the government, of course, might just have a lot more paperwork than for the other sponsors. With the government, the kind of value you're presenting sometimes has an added dimension of public accountability, and sometimes maybe even political consideration. The time, because the time are approved for your pitch and the time that you are getting the funds are almost disconnected. So how you plan for this in your work and your pitch is going to be something to consider. And the last group who's looking at crowdfunding, there are of course a large variety of ways in which you can make a crowdfunding appeal. For arts organizations, for arts projects, the pitch is often to a particular community, right? Either arts enthusiasts or maybe those who are part of the professional sector. That's just 2 examples of kinds of communities. The value that needs to be communicated is interesting, but I think especially for crowdfunding projects, it's largely intrinsic value in and of itself as a project. Of course, most, if not all, crowdfunding appeals do offer rewards, gifts, giveaways, etc. So with that, we still have about 7 minutes. If you would like to ask clarifying questions, just let us know. You have video and audio access. If you'd like to raise your hand, we'll call on you so you can ask your question. And between myself and the facilitators, we'll be able to take your questions. All right, so if there are no more questions, let's open up the breakout rooms. You will either be moved automatically or you will see an invitation to join a room. You'll have until 5:30 p.m. to work on your pitch presentations, and after which point you will come out and then we will begin the pitches. So good luck. I'll be bouncing in and around rooms to see if you need any help. I see a lot of some worried faces, some smiling faces. So this is nice. Super. Okay. So we will go in this order that you see on the screen, group 1 first, and then 2, 3, and 4. As I mentioned, each group has 5 minutes to present, and you will hear a buzzer sound when you have 2 minutes left, and also one at 5 minutes. So When you hear the second buzzer, ideally you should have finished by then, but if not, 30 seconds, maybe 1 more minute, and then you must close. You will get feedback from each of the jury members immediately after your presentation. And just for everyone to internalize that this exercise is, all of the jury members, in fact, we were talking about it, they understand that it won't be perfect. What we're trying to make sure is just that you've grasped everything that has been talked about. And the whole idea of this exercise is to do it while it's fresh. So with that, we will begin with the first group. Who is going to be presenting from the group presenting to government institutions?
Yeah, that's going to be me.
All right, super. So you can go ahead and share.
Can I share my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
It says.
While Kavya brings up her screen, I also wanted to introduce you to our fourth and surprise guest speaker. We have Rosemary Parkhill from the British Council UK, who is Manager of Programs and Arts Services. And she's been an integral part of the Festival Connection series. So she's seen it all. And her work has also been with a lot of festivals. So again, perfectly placed to give you feedback on your pitches.
Hi, everyone.
I'm going to stop talking. Hi, Rosemary. All right, Kavya, go ahead.
All right. So a very good evening to the respected jury from the ICCR. And this is Kavya here, and I'm here to tell you about the Ignite Festival of Contemporary Dance that we're planning to organize in August this year. And I would like to first begin off by saying that I'm representing the Gati Dance Forum, which you might have heard of in the contemporary dance scene in India. So what are we trying to do through this festival is that we're trying to bring a lot more visibility for the contemporary dance scene in India. As a dancer myself, I've been practicing Bharatanatyam for the past 20 to 23 years. And what I've seen is that, whenever we say Indian dances, what people perceive of them is, very classical, traditional dance forms. And the very fact that a contemporary dance scene even exists in the country is often unknown to people. So I think what we want to do through this is to firstly change perceptions and diversify what Indian dance means and represents, but also at the same time, try to upskill stakeholders in the Indian dance scene and also get an idea of what the international benchmark for this is. Moving on, why do we want to do this is, again, we are a team of very enthusiastic dance practitioners ourselves, and we've seen that anytime that young dance practitioners in the country try to experiment with Indian classical or traditional dances, there's a lot of backlash and sometimes often a lot of ridicule on how this is done. And even though the Indian dance scene has seen a renaissance in the past a couple of years, I think there's a lot of work still needed to be done. Especially the most important point, as you can see, is to develop actually an audience for contemporary dance in India, which often does not exist or which is still a very niche sector. So I think these are some of our key goals with organizing this festival. We want to put India on the map, on that international map. And when people think about contemporary dance, we also want them to think of India and not just the West. And I think one of the other important things is, of course, creating economic and social opportunities, because we often feel that the dance sector, the performing arts sector in India, as we know, is a very informal sector, right? But through this, we want to see how we could make it a more formal approach, how we can actually offer paid opportunities for people to perform, for people to organize, for people to attend events, and so on and so forth. Because often not being paid or not paying, like unticketed performances, are still a common thing in India, and this is something we want to change. And you might ask, why Gati, right? Why are we the right people to be organizing this? And here I would like to draw upon our founder, Mandeep Raiki, who has done tremendous work internationally. He has worked with various organizations, and we feel that he can use his experience and networks to kind of boost the impact of this festival. And also, as we said, we have organized this event for the past 10 years. So we feel that we have the necessary expertise and experience required to organize a festival of this scale. Moreover, we have been already supported by many multiple institutions and cultural organizations, such as the British Council, Goethe Institute, and so on and so forth. So we feel that your support, ICCR, will also be a huge boost in this regard. So that's why we are reaching out to you. And just in terms of the past educational outreach initiatives, Gati also organized the first degree course in India, which brought contemporary dance in India to the forefront. So we really feel that we have the expertise required to do this. And I would just like to end on some of the key points on how we plan to do this. Is that we have about 6 months in our bag to plan and execute this event, and we're estimating an audience of about 20,000 people over 8 days and across 22 performances. So already within the next once if this deal works out, we would like to start promoting for the event through social media, through other cultural partners, and we will be taking charge of running the festival, our festival team. But we would like to request ICCR for support in terms of networking and financial help, and also in terms of booking venues and other such outreach initiatives. Given what a respected institution the ICCR is, and given the global and international outreach of the organization, we feel that our goals can align on this regard, and we would really like your help. Please do think about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavya. I'm going to invite everyone who's not on the jury to go off video so that we can focus on them. So jury members, as and when you'd like to jump in and give feedback, you are welcome to do so. The floor is yours.
May I go first? Great pitch, Kavya. I quite enjoyed listening to you. But as a government organization and an Indian government organization, I'm not too sure if I'm convinced of supporting something that is usually associated with something that is not Indian. Contemporary dance is not really Indian. Why should an Indian entity support such an art form when we could support something that is intrinsically Indian, like Bharatanatyam or something classical, or even Bollywood?
I think there's a common misconception that contemporary dance belongs to the West, and I think contemporary dance is basically defined by the country that it comes from. So I think I would say that to say that contemporary dance is not authentically Indian is not a correct assumption, because the contemporary dance that would come from India would very much have dashes of Bharatanatyam and Kathak in it. So there will be an authentic, very Indian flavor to the contemporary that you see, which will come from India, as opposed to what we usually associated with, which is like ballet or jazz or those kind of influences. So I think that's why.
So yes. I'm just going to say, let's hear all of the feedback, and then you'll get a minute or so to rebut.
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure.
Go ahead, Jay.
So I go next?
Sure. Sorry, before you go, Illy, Jay, did you have anything else?
No.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Illy.
Brilliant. Well done, Kavya. That was really good. I like the way it's structured. Obviously very passionate about this. It's something you believe in, which counts for a lot when you're talking to brands and people just generally. I guess a couple of constructive bits to build on would be, and it might be semantics, but you said we would like to develop an audience. And I think that's something that you need to have more proof that there is an appetite. Can you put some numbers to it? Can you quantify what kind of people? So I think they'd want to know that they're getting involved with something that will bring them some scale and some pace quite quickly. Sorry, that's always happens. It shouldn't ring on there. And then I think there's just at the end, there should be a page about the deal, what you're looking for. There wasn't the number, the 15 larks that you're looking for, and then just summarize that on one page. So very small builds, but I think well done.
Okay, jump. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rosemary.
Oh, no. Sorry, you go first.
Okay, all right. So hi, Kavya. I think I'll start with what I really liked. What I really liked was that there was a personal connect that you talked about. It always helps when you can put yourself in the shoes of the audience you want to tap into and say that I'm also a dancer, so I really like that. Then I also liked in the beginning that you talked about what is it that you really want to achieve with all this, and that is essentially to create visibility for this particular target audience, dancers, for this particular cohort of people, which are dancers as well as and the other thing that I also liked, the third thing that I also liked was that you talked about what is it that you want to do other than just spread awareness, which is upskilling. So these are the three things that I really liked. The things that I believe that your pitch would require some work on is the scale of impact. One of the things that might happen with maybe the government foundation, the government organizations more, is that they may also not know an area that they may be neglecting. Doesn't mean that it is not large enough. So for example, contemporary dance, I mean, there could be people sitting in the government who think that Kathak, Bharatanatyam, these are the ones that, our traditional dances are. But if you can show them how it is evolving and how actually with Instagram, there are more contemporary dancers than, Kathak dancers or Bharatanatyam, or the younger public is connecting more to the contemporary dances more than the, the traditional dances. You might even have to educate them in your pitch that you are probably ignoring a large chunk of audience that you don't know exists, but exists more than these traditional forms of dances. So sometimes that might happen when it is something that is new to I think this would happen more with the government organization and not really with brands who already know that they want to tap a certain kind of people and they're large enough. So I think scale of impact and how do you really educate someone who may really not know what you're talking about, and yet because they are a cultural organization as a government, they might have the mandate to even expand to that side of the audience as well, could be the mandate. So yeah, those are the two things I would suggest.
Yeah, I think that last point is really important about almost spelling out what the opportunity is for the person that you're pitching to, and all the things that they might not be aware of. So it goes back to assumptions. Thank you for that. Just my first impression, which is important, was you had a really friendly, relaxed tone and, confident, and you stated the facts very clearly, which was just helpful, to understand. You set the scene really well. As somebody who works at the British Council, which is an arm's length government body, and I work a lot with government, what I thought was excellent is you did all these words that I love to hear. Cultural exchange, changing perception, upskilling. What you did, you applied this kind of idea of mirroring back the language that I relate to and that I want to see. And I think, that's a really useful tool to have in loads of ways. So you had kind of done the research. Well, what terminology does my organisation, it felt like that, what do we use? What else? Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It was quite interesting. It made me think about when you talked about your founder, that appeal of an individual rather than a team can be more powerful, to hone down on that one personal story. I thought it was very good that you referenced other partnerships. They might have been 7 years ago or something. So not so much relevant to you, but they will make a difference to me. On my ears will ping, you know, when I hear, oh, Goethe Institute, oh, okay, so they've done something there. I would have, loved to hear more and about alignment, but probably just run out of time. So, you know, areas there might be when you were expanding a bit on what the opportunities for economic development, social change, community cohesion, or, you know, about the upskilling element of it. I would have liked to see more of that, but yeah, it was really good. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our jury. Kavya, I think this was good. I don't think it needs any rebuttal in a sense, so you're good. All right, so group 2, please get ready. And I'm going to say that it might be tempting for the other groups to sort of quickly add these things in. I'm going to say resist, so that you get feedback on what you've already worked on. This is not a competition. You can, of course, listen to all of the feedback that is coming to all of the other groups. That's the whole point of this mixed exercise. But resist adding to your presentation now that we're in this actual session. So group 2, who is going to be presenting?
Yeah, that's me.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you help me with the slides? Because as I told you, I didn't have the slides with me.
So is this
Prajit? Together. So
is this Prajit who is speaking?
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. Yeah. Nice. Okay. I just need the help on putting up the slides if possible.
Sure. Okay. Prajit, if I can recommend, you know, your video seems to be jerking. So it might be better for us to
keep it off.
So why don't you put your video off? Yeah. Just for so that we can hear you clearly. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Am I audible now? Clear?
You are, yes. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, so hello, members of the jury and everyone present on this meeting. Here we are making a small attempt on presenting one of India's few unique dance festivals which are actually celebrating contemporary forms of dance. These are very less in number, but yes, we have an ambition to bring dance, which is one of the most innovative forms of expression, and this has the power to bring to forefront those expressions or those themes and topics which probably words and text might not be able to bring in, and contemporary forms are the best to basically reveal that, and hence we feel that it's quite quintessential for us as a country to make an attempt and plug the void that currently exists between the contemporary dance forms and what the actual progress and future of dance needs. Clearly, being experiential and experimental is the need of the hour for the progress of any format of arts, and specifically that for a dance format. So 80 days, 80 artists, 8 days, 80 artists, 10 countries. We really feel it just can't get bigger. So from here, we also want to ask ourselves, why are we doing this? So yeah, slide 3. Yeah. So it's basically a time to, as I told you, it's a time to plug the gap. And it's also a very strong attempt from our end to put India on the global diaspora of contemporary dance. And for this, we're basically bringing in 80 plus dance practitioners who are like the biggest names, not just from India, but from even Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. And we have some really good names and lineup of artists like Terence Lewis, Shaimak Dawar, Atta Kalari, all of them who are like legendary in their own, respective forms of dance and have really contributed to the country and already done a long way in putting Indian dance on the global map. Going forward, the 4th slide, please. Yeah. Now, basically, what do we bring to the table? We basically being a flag bearer in this entire endeavor from the beginning. And we strongly believe, and we are running the 3rd edition of this Global Dance Festival. Every year we have been doing some or the other form. We have been trying to make it bigger and better. And there is already, we have a very strong loyal following from a certain audience base, which is more than now 50,000 viewers every year. This is only going, we are a talented team of young dynamic practitioners who are full of enthusiasm for making this ambitious project a reality. So how we're going to do it, it's basically, as I told you, 8 days, multiple venues, like 8 venues, performances, which is basically a mix of masterclasses, workshops, film screenings, and installations. It's truly going to be an endeavor which is multi-sensory and experiential. And we assure you that if you partner with us only for a very a nominal amount of 15 lakhs, what we assure is that your brand is going to make its presence felt and have a touch base with art connoisseurs who are having discerning taste and a keen interest in making dance of India on the global map. So that's our earnest request to you. And with this, I end my presentation.
Can I just go ahead with this?
Yeah, please.
Okay, hi, Prajit.
Yeah.
Hi. So we, I think the first thing that I noticed was that you dived right into pitching while the whole pitch was still like not in the full screen. So I think, and I guess someone was assisting you. So I think when you're in a real setting talking to people, you should take all the time before you feel ready to go ahead and jump right in. So you can always, like, take 2 minutes and say that let's the technical aspect get sorted. So don't worry too much. I mean, I know this was a 5-minute sort of a setup, but in general, if you are in front of people, you can sort of always say that, I'll take 2 minutes before this is going out. Then the other thing is, I think what I heard a lot in your presentation was a lot about that you want to do this without anything really, tangible or relevant to the brand or anything as a personal connect in terms of, why are you guys doing it and why do you have the expertise other than the fact that you've done 3 editions of it, but to highlight about, who your what comprises your team, who are the experts in the dance space who are on your team and who are your advisors is sort of very important. So if I were to just go back to the structure that I talked about in my presentation, which is the what, I didn't really hear any problem in terms of why is this dance form important, and what is the problem that such dancers are facing in India, and what is your proposed solution then to alleviate that problem? In terms of why you and why, it would really help if there were cases of one of your founders, who started this and how he's or she's a dancer of himself, and that's why the history of the organization comes in, and why the motivation is very personal, then the capability that we spoke about, and towards the end, other than in the how, a lot of details are very important in terms of number of days of the festival, the number of people you're planning to target, in terms of the number of people who will attend the festival, especially when you're pitching to a brand which is looking at exposure and the scale of impact. So the numbers here are extremely, extremely important. And the second thing is that's very
Anushka, I did put a 50,000 number to it.
Oh, okay, all right. I think I
did put a, yeah.
And the other thing was that I didn't hear us. I would have loved to see a slide on why is it relevant to a brand. Now I know that these guys did not give you any specific brand to pitch to, but you might have wanted to just say that we're pitching to Nike for this kind of a thing, and then you would have been actually able to probably come up with why is Nike a good fit for this kind of a festival. So yeah, I mean, that's what my feedback would be.
Sure. Thank you so much, Anushi. Thank you so much. Noted.
My pleasure.
I think Anshulika has covered the feedback very comprehensively. I can't think of anything else to add except just stress on the idea of understanding who you are pitching to and really putting yourself in their shoes to kind of imagine what is it that they would benefit out of the opportunity that you're presenting to them. So as Anshulika said, if you could just have set an example of a Nike, then just a couple of sentences of how Nike has always been associated with sport, but something like contemporary dance would also add to their appeal to a wider range of people, etc. So whatever those ideas are that would appeal to the brand should come out very strongly in your pitch. That's all.
Noted that.
Hey, Praj, well done. I think you probably got the most difficult section because these brand guys can be very tough. You didn't have a brand that you're working on, so you had to keep it quite generic. So I think a good effort there. I guess I got really excited when you mentioned experiential, and I think that's something you could really elaborate on in terms of the touch points for their consumers. You know, it's an aligning, as the other guys have said, it's about aligning the values to the brand, but you didn't have a brand. So I guess that's a struggle. But, you know, you're trying to talk to these guys, you know, you're talking to somebody who doesn't necessarily have an investment or an interest personally in contemporary art or dance. So you really have to think about the pitch level and what's really going to get them excited is what is it going to do for their brand. So trying to give them, you know, they don't know that this is the right thing for them, but you're going to have to tell them that it is, and it's the best thing since sliced bread, if you like sliced bread. But a really good attempt without too much information in terms of the branding. So well done.
Thanks, Illy. Thanks.
Rosemary, you're on mute. Yeah.
Always. Sorry about that. Yeah, just to say well done. I noticed it was great. The first word you used was unique. So that really grabbed my interest straight away to hear what was unique about your festival. Again, I agree with Illy, like experiential and global map and very impressive words. You know, you said you've got dynamic team. So it was tempting in those terms. And I think, you know, of course, then we've got to be careful if you're using those words that you don't slip into jargon, because that can, you know, I don't think you had much choice here, and I don't think you did slip into jargon, and it was harder without, you know, pitching to someone. But I think that's just a bit of a warning sign that you've got to follow up those buzzwords. I like how you said to the brand, you know, we will make your presence felt, because that wasn't something, you know, just explicit or kind of crude. It was implying that there's an opportunity there that is quite interesting. You know, what have you got in mind? A presence felt is a good word, a good term, I think, to hear. But I think I really liked what Illy said in his presentation about staying one step ahead of the brand. So I think it would have been good to try and incorporate how you might have done that if it was possible. And then finally, yeah, so you started off with unique. It would have been great to hear, say, and you're a unique brand and this is, you're great as well, kind of thing. Yeah, that was my feedback.
Thanks, Rosemary. Thank you so much. Very encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the jury. Thank you to group 2. And we move on to group 3. Don't get started by the buzzer. Who is going to be presenting from group 3?
Me, Priyanshi.
All right, Priyanshi. And are you going to be sharing your screen?
Yes.
Can I just ask what group is this presenting to?
Yes.
We're presenting to an art organization.
Art Foundation.
And,
Art Foundation.
Yeah. We are looking at presenting to Tata Trust. We've sort of tailored it, just keeping that in mind.
Sure. Go ahead.
I will just need a minute to figure out how I can share screen.
If you're on a laptop, you should see a share screen button at the bottom of your.
Yes, it's asked me to go into some, sorry, my settings have some problem.
No worries. Is there anyone else in your
I
group?
can, yeah, this is Shatakshi. Priyanshi, should I try? I
Yeah,
am from,
yeah, you
yeah,
can.
let me try.
Yeah.
Let me try. Yeah. Can everyone see this?
Yes. It would be good if you could move to full screen so that we
Sure.
can see just this. So at the top right, you see present. Next
Yes,
to the
I
double-
do. Done.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. We are from Gati Dance Forum, and we are here to ask for your support for the third edition of our dance festival called Ignite. As you know, dance is a very integral part of Indian culture and history, and it's represented in its sort of the movement format of a lot of expressions. And we have a lot of classical dances, and we have some great festivals with the support of the government and some other private entities, like the Khajuraho Dance Festival, which is organized by the MP state government. And we can see the impact in the revival and the access to understanding these dance forms that these festivals have had. And at Gati, we like to explore, experiment, and take the conversation of dance forward. So we work with contemporary dance forms, and it's a dialogue and discourse-based practice. And with Ignite, we're trying to open up the access and definition of what dance means to a lot of other people. So yeah, that's Ignite for us. Yeah, so with Ignite, over 8 days, we're looking at bringing 80 artists from 10 countries with 22 performances, 8+ venues. We're also looking at doing this online and through other venues. And one of the biggest parts of our festival is our endeavor to look at how this can have a more sustained discourse around dance. So one can understand dance a little more, like that there's no two boundaries of one being extremely classical Indian dance forms or the other being this dance that's done on Bollywood. There is an interaction that happens, and it's just we're trying to open up the windows to understanding that. Yeah. Why we're doing it is also, as I mentioned, that there is a gap in the understanding. And we've seen through our practice that even in the last 8 years of our existence as Gati, we've seen private universities actually open up baccalaureate and master's level programs on contemporary dance, understanding the interaction that it's had with other dance forms, art forms, and everything else. And we want to create a larger community and sort of a section of people who interact and engage with dance professionally as well. And why us? One is we were started, Gati Dance Forum, as the name suggests, it's a forum. It was started by Mandeep Reki, who's done a lot of work looking at dance as a performance practice and not just as this beautiful movement that happens to music. And through his work, I think all of us have been touched, and I mean, our lives have gained a lot more, and we want to share and spread that joy and knowledge and wisdom and open up the discourse. And we want to see the community grow in a sustainable fashion. And we also, I mean, we're going across India, we're looking at South Asia and a lot of other countries as well. So we want to have that international dialogue as well, because we all have really great histories behind us. Yeah, next slide, please. Again, just in broad outlines, we're looking at multiple venues, including online and the internet space, where our primary agenda is to bring newer audiences, people who haven't had access to even seeing a dance performance of a certain quality and of a certain background. And they can also engage with already existing audiences of all kinds of dance, which is whether it's traditional, whether it's contemporary, whether it's folk, and all of that. We're looking at a lot of audience interaction. We're looking at symposias happening. And we want to reach the audiences that we're talking about, especially the newer audiences, through the traditional medias of marketing, which will be, of course, advertising, internet, social media. But we also want to reach out through calling out to the other practitioners in other art forms. For example, people in the theater background, people in performance, people in comedy, people in music. Anyway, a lot of these people interact with dance in different forms. So we want to, again, bring their audiences and bring them into this discourse and the festival, of course. We're looking at accessing about 8,000 people through the 8 days of our festival in the physical form. And we're looking at accessing a minimum of 25,000 people through the online versions of our live performance streaming. And of course, because these online pieces will stay on forever on the internet, so we're looking at a lot more repeated viewing much later as well. We're looking for 15 lakhs primarily to cover artist fees in their travel, because they will be coming from all over, and marketing and logistics of the festival. So yeah, that's our festival, and we really hope you can support and be part of this.
Thank you. Jury?
Shall I go? Okay. Well, great stuff. Well done. I think what struck me straight away was the style that you used. It was very simple, not long sentences. A lot of the key points you wanted to get across were blocked off. So the last slide with the numbers, it was very scan and go, right, it's going to be online. I know the numbers of the audience, numbers you're looking at. Going back to the beginning, I love the use of the word of bridge. I thought that was really good in terms of kind of like where your mindset, and the use of collaborative and sustainable. Again, strong words. And you use the all-important one, which is engagement. So those things really stood out, I think, because it was the style of the presentation. And then, the ask at the end, this is what we're looking for, is absolute clarity. This is what you need to write the check for, and this is what you'll get back for it. So well done.
Thank you.
I'm happy to jump in next. Thank you. That was lovely. Yeah, Art Foundation. So they're obviously going to be centering the art itself, bringing that, what is the power of art? How does it nurture and benefit communities? And I think you did talk about that and explain it. Beyond Bollywood implies diversity, which an Art Foundation, I'm sure, wants to hear. It was exciting. I thought the second slide was excellent. It just had all the data laid out, kind of all the facts and figures, which was great. And I could, make those connections between what you were talking about with that data. Another excellent point was that relationship with theatre audiences, the overlap with other art forms. That is, art isn't in a vacuum, and people that are interested in art aren't in a vacuum either. So a really, really good connection. I mean, all of these groups will want to know a budget, and an arts foundation, might have to really look at that first before they can look at anything else, actually. So it was very good to include just a very simple, clear budget at the end. So yeah, thank you. Also, just quickly, sustainable is a brilliant word to put in anywhere, wherever you can. I think everyone responds, to that word at the moment.
Thank you.
Priyanshi, I loved the presentation. I think it was very, very comprehensive and to the point, and very sensitive to the fact that you were talking to an art foundation. That clearly was, that came out strongly with the kinds of activities that you talked about, whether it was spreading awareness, filling the gap, reaching newer audiences. This is all the stuff that art foundations would love to do. I can't remember, but a very important aspect of art foundations is that of, what they're interested in is education and training. I'm not too sure if you've included that. If you have, that's great. But perhaps one could have talked about the academic nature of the festival that could appeal more to an art foundation.
Yeah.
Finally, art foundations, I believe, would be very interested in propping up their contribution to the art world. So something that would some activity or some branding ideas that would be innovative and unique and help the organization that's funding you spread their brand awareness through your festival would have helped as well. But overall, very well done.
Thank you.
Hi, Priyanshi.
Hi.
Okay, so here it goes. I think it was great that you decided kind of decided that you want to talk to Tata Trusts. So that kind of puts everything in context in terms of, how the pitch then can be, designed. What I was, however, looking at by the end of it was, okay, so I couldn't remember, it immediately put a thought in my head that has Tata Trust done anything in the art dance space? And then I was sort of looking forward to seeing how would you convince them to enter this space if they haven't done it so far, or even if they have, why should they partner with Gati on this contemporary thing? So I think the relevance part of it, it was an additional slide needed, I believe. And I think it was good that you talked a lot about your team and its capability, kind of really setting.
I have 2 podcasts.
Okay, there is a little.
Yeah, there seemed to have been a small glitch, but I think you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So what I liked was that you really amped up the capability and the credentials of the organization, which kind of gives confidence to the funder that you know what you're talking about. I would like to throw in a tip here, and this is probably something that any of the groups can apply. So very interestingly, UN has declared 2021 as the year of creativity. And they have in all the sustainable development goals, arts and culture was always missing. Now, what they have also kind of recognized is the fact that arts and culture can always be used as tools to create awareness about any other SDG. So for example, talking about health, and there can be a documentary on health workers or documentary on something related to in the health space. Or if it is a dance festival, I would love to sort of see how you can tell an arts foundation or even an ICCR that this festival will help us showcase that how we are also aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals through arts and culture, and specifically this dance festival. So other than the fact that we'll create this great festival with 25,000 people who will come, we'll also create a small performance by marginalized kids, and we'll educate them about the dance form, and we'll create like a performance by the, I don't know, some street kids or this particular community of kids that are usually underrepresented. So then the SDG that you are kind of marrying into the dance festival is diversity, inclusion, education, all of that. So that kind of helps with, and most foundations their goals are mapped to the SDGs. So that would sort of help your case when it comes to relevance. And this is something that other groups can also apply. Yeah, so that is my feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, group 3, good job. And we have our last group coming up. We do have 9 minutes left. So far, we've all been doing really well on time. So Akshat, are you going to be presenting?
Yeah, I'm going to be the one presenting. Yeah. If you can just give me a moment, I'm on a mobile, so it might be slightly glitchy. Let me get the technical part away first.
All right.
Okay. Wait a second. Does it have an option to do the screen? No.
I actually haven't ever tried sharing screen on
There
mobile.
used to be a screen sharing of my screen. It doesn't seem to be there. It's Google Drive, Box.
So can someone else?
Somebody can help me out?
I can share the screen.
Go ahead.
1 second.
This group is the crowdfunding group.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Kamya. Yeah, go ahead and full screen. Perfect.
So before it's a crowdfunding campaign. We are planning to do it on Wishberry, and this will be a sort of a video that will go out to the people who will be looking at it. Hi, I'm Akshat, and I'm from Ignite. We are from Gati Dance Forum. So in 2010, we did our first contemporary dance festival. We had around 500 people who came for it. And after they had all gone, we realized that we needed to do so much more because contemporary dance was not being discussed at all in Delhi, in India. So then we decided that we'll take a slight sabbatical of 5 years and came back with the second edition, which was in 2015. Kavya, can you please go back to the previous slide? Yeah. So in 2015, we had the second edition, but in 5 years, we had been able to do almost 1,000 workshops with children, with school children, with people in the slums. We wanted to get it out there. And in 2015, we had 5,000 people who walked into our performance at the festival. We wanted to do it in 2020, it didn't happen. 2021, we are reaching out to you. We'll do it in 2022. We have 1 year to plan. We are getting the Sri Lankan and Bangladeshi dancers to come to us. What is new? What are we presenting? We are presenting to you an opportunity to be a part of this global, which is initiating from India and spiraling out. We start from India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and then we will capture all the attention of the entire globe. And we will not do it alone. We'll do it with you. And when we do this, we realize that it was for the people, of the people. And now we want to do it as by the people. We want you to come forward. And why would you come forward? You'll come forward because of nostalgia. And not just the 10 years that have gone past, but because you've always wanted to dance. And we have been inhibited because people tell you, you can't dance, but everybody can dance. And all you people out there who have the passion, you want to perform, and you love to see people dance, because when the passion comes out, when a dancer is performing, it's something to as close as to nirvana. We'll be expanding our reach through accessibility because we are reaching out to the non-traditional crowd. That's not to say that we will not have performances in the Shrifort Auditorium or at the Meghdut Auditorium or at the Kamani Auditorium, but they're small. They cannot hold all the people who want to be a part of this revolution. So we'll be doing it in the non-traditional spaces, Central Park, in the markets, in the open spaces, outside the mall. We'll be doing it everywhere. And we'll be doing a conference because we want people to not only dance or to see dance, we want people to talk about the practice and see how the changes are coming. And this year, this edition, we have a festival which will have a conference, joining the dots, points of shift, pause, discontinuity, and rupture. A lot of words, but they are important. They are all important for the sustainability of dance as a form of human expression. And for the first time, as I said, our neighbors from Sri Lanka and Bangladesh will be coming to be a part of this. We'll always have Indian dancers. We have Terence Lewis from India as well. We have big names. And we'll have all of you there also for the master classes or the workshops that will happen. But you might want to ask, why us? I mean, why Ignite? But I told you that we started in 2010. We did it in 2015. And we will do it again in 2022. We have our location partners in place. We have our market associations in place who will help us with this. We want that everybody should be able to dance. Everybody should be able to connect. We ourselves are passionate dancers, and we just want to share. Next, Karan. And for that, we need you. Some of you might have the resources to pay. So we've got those 20 platinum seats for 15,000 rupees and above, if you want to go above. And that will give you access to all the events. It will give you an opportunity for having coffee with two of the artists who will be there. And you'll have the after party access. You could be a gold partner. You could take the 10,000 to 15,000 slab, the 30 of those. That will give you access to all the events. Then there's the silver, which is 5,000 to 10,000. There's 60 of those. 15 performances is what you get access to. Friend, all of us are friends. You pay anything up to 5,000 and you get access to 5 performances. 15 and 5 performances, these are within the theaters, within the auditoriums. Open spaces, we want to keep it open for all. And so whatever you pay us helps us to bring this out to public, out to the people, out to the masses, and we'll all dance together. You can do one more thing. You can share about us. Let everybody know, let everyone become a part of this revolution. So let's dance, let's ignite. Thank you.
Great. Jury?
Brilliant. You convinced me. I would like to be a platinum member.
Great.
No, seriously, I think the classifications of all your 4 groups, I think all of you all have done well in understanding who you're pitching to. But I think you've really stood out and really understanding what that individual would want and why that individual will want to participate. And not only did you ensure that every aspect of your presentation, whether it is what or how or why and etc., was all targeted towards that individual's passion, and you ignited that. So brilliant job on that. I really don't have any feedback to give you, Akshat, on this, except for saying that, and Anshulika will be the best one, I suppose, out of all of us, because she does crowdfunding all the time. But as a novice in this field, and just putting myself as somebody who would donate to this cause, I would also again want to know, in addition to having access to this, what other kind of benefit would I gain? Could I be part of a larger movement? Is there a movement that I could then identify and bring my friends along with, etc., etc.? So, I mean, I'm just giving you feedback for the sake of giving it, because I think I owe it to you, but really fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
I'm happy to jump in. Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about the crowdfunding world, but it was so immediate, you know, that it was a totally different approach was needed that you really stepped up to, and just your tone that you employed, this real storytelling, you know, type narrative that was very evocative, used rhetorical language, you really emphasized there's no separation between the festival and the crowdfunders. You know, you said, you're not alone, we're going to do it with you, you're going to dance here, you know, we're going to be with our neighbors and friends. And I think that is obviously key to the nature of crowdfunding, is that you're part of this exclusive group community, and that's the attraction, and that's why people give their money. I mean, you even got the word Nirvana in there. You like compared your festival to heaven, which, you know, and it didn't seem that out of place. I was thinking, yeah, it sounds great. What else was I going to say? No, I think that was it. Just the really key points, and just kind of, I guess, yeah, a notice to all the participants that crowdfunding really does need a very, very different approach. So it just really came across for me how necessary I think that is. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll jump in quickly because I'm not an expert in this field. Anshulika is our resident guru on that front. But I thought it was really refreshing, as Rosemary said, the storytelling aspect, very engaging. There's obviously a lot of passion there. You made me feel like I could go out and dance, which is great, I guess. But on the end bit, I thought great that you tiered your packages that were available to, you know, gold, platinum, etc. And I just wondered if that was a missed opportunity, that you started with them at gold and given an opportunity to upsell. So you've obviously sold them into the property. So it is an opportunity to get them more engaged and go, we want more of this pie. So that's just a positive thing, just in terms of how you tier that offer. Don't go in at the top, always leave room for a bit more. But really good. I really enjoyed listening to you and watching you, and that's really well done. Thank you.
Hi, Akshat.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I actually, before I go into my feedback, I wanted to know, did you go to Wishberry's website and see the pitch video of Ignite while doing your research in the breakout room?
No,
No, you didn't?
no,
Okay.
we didn't actually. We didn't. We just thought that we'll be pitching it on Wish. That's all.
Okay, because the Ignite actually raised 15 lakhs on Wishberry crowdfunding.
Okay.
So when I was listening to you, I was just like, wow, this is very close to a pitch that usually Wishberry would sort of, train a particular artist on before he goes live and starts raising funds. So yeah, I think the idea in a pitch, and this is something that I believe also works across board, even if you're talking to a government organization or a brand person, is storytelling. Like if you can, because ultimately you're speaking to people, and human beings are the same across board. I mean, sure, there may be, cultural managers, ICCR or a brand organization, but ultimately you're talking to the kid in them. And if that is something that you can get out in a pitch, even while you're in a very formal space, then that just is so refreshing that they just connect with you. So while crowdfunding is where you do this, obviously, because you're talking to just normally people. But I would say that the whole informal, personalized storytelling approach, telling a person that everybody wants to dance and this is why we want to do this, was just so like, that's exactly what you should have done while pitching to people. The other thing that I really liked about was that you spoke about impact. You spoke about the fact that this time it'll be by the people, and suddenly you're like, you involved everybody who's listening to you, and you made me or people who are listening to you feel that, oh, I can make something happen. And this is giving power. So this is again very, very sort of, it was a very good thing to say, because even in a crowdfunding pitch, people can be very cookie cutter, which you weren't. So you appealed to the emotional side of human beings, and that is what works. I did think that maybe it was a little verbose, but I guess it's okay. You probably trying to pack too much into five minutes. A lot of pauses will help. A lot of just breaks will help a little bit. I also think that I was looking forward to whether you will include rewards in your pitch, because that's a very specific thing in crowdfunding. And you did that. So I was very, very happy to see that. And yes, you usually go from the smallest to the largest. And crowdfunding and the rewards are a whole different workshop, which probably Artex and I can do separately for just crowdfunding. But yeah, I'm very glad that you used a lot of things when you do crowdfunding is that you can give out is very personalized stuff. For example, you can say that if it's a festival, we will have like a standee at the entry of the festival with every funder's name on it. So that way, you can make people feel a part of this whole thing more than just like how you would put a logo of a brand, you would just, put the name of a person. So that makes this pretty cool. And I think the only thing that was missing was a smile. So you could sort of do that as well. Cool. So that.
Thank you.
Super. Thank you. We're 5 minutes over time, but thank you so much, Illy, Anshulika, Jay, and Rosemary, for all of your feedback, for the presentations that you shared, and all of the gyan that you shared with us at the beginning of the session. I know I personally learned a lot from not just your presentation, but also being able to see how you're responding to each of the pitches. So thank you again. Thank you for your time. Thank you to Rian and the team at British Council. Thank you to Yadhu, Anjali, Vidushi from the Artex team who ran this entire session. And thank you to Rashmi, who worked out all of the details of the workshop and put all of this together. To our participants, thank you for engaging with this exercise, with this entire session, and with this workshop. And thank you for all the effort that you put into all of your pitches. I hope that you were also able to take as much as I did. It is important for us at Artex to get your feedback. So I hope you will take 5 minutes to fill out the form, which should appear as a link in the chat. You'll also get this on email. And our next session is on access and festivals, which is on the 11th and 13th of March. It's a twofer. This will also be a closed door session. So please spread the word to people who are interested in this topic. I'll close here because I know that we all have busy schedules, but thank you again. Thank you to our facilitators. Thank you to all our participants, and we'll see you online soon.